This is the webinar for the anatomy of a quality management system, to go through the process of how to implement a quality management system, the benefits of it, and how it will help you as an organization. Introduce myself. I am Lauren Brophy. I'm the quality manager for InnoScot Health. I've been working with InnoScot Health for the last 2 years now. I've had about 8 years experience in working with quality management systems and helping different organizations implement them. So hopefully the steps that we go through this morning will be beneficial to you all. And there's enough information. For those who don't know us, we're InnoScot Health. We're working in partnership with NHS, industry and academia for over 23 years now to inspire, accelerate and commercialize impactful healthcare innovations. We help with a unique role in unlocking the know-how of innovation partners to improve the treatment of patient care. Please do pop onto our website if you're not already done so, and you will find a lot of useful information for all aspects of innovation. Okay, lots of information to go through today, so I'll do my best to try and simplify it as much as possible. Hopefully my microphone is clear enough for everyone to understand and hear all that I say. But of course, any questions afterwards, and we will gladly answer them. And obviously you can contact us at any time after the webinar. Okay, a quality management system. What is a quality management system? A quality management system, as you'll mainly know as QMS for short, it is a structured framework of policies, processes, and procedures designed to ensure that your organization is consistently meeting customer and regulatory requirements. ISO 13485 2016 is designed to meet these requirements and has specific quality management procedures that help you structure the processes and policies that you need to ensure that you meet all the customer and regulatory requirements. A little bit of history about quality management systems and how they came about. Medical device quality management systems evolved from post-production inspections back in the 1960s to a proactive risk-based lifecycle management that is now driven today by regulatories. A few aspects of history that brought out, or should I say, quality management systems. The 1960s to the 1970s was the birth of GMPs, which is good manufacturing practice, following the, if I pronounce this correctly, the thalidomide disaster. Back in the 1960s, 70s, there was an introduction for good manufacturing practice regulations. Moving forward, this helped with the inspection of finished goods to the controlling and production process. Following that, in the 1990s, design control and international standards were then implemented. It's the Safe Medical Device Act in 1990 prompted the International Organization for the Standardization, published as ISO 13485 specifically for medical devices. In 2003 to 2016, there was a risk-based focus that was introduced into 13485, and this was updated in 2003 and then heavily revised in the 2016 standards that we now use to align with a more rigorous risk-based approach, focusing on the entire product life cycle, not just the manufacturing side of medical devices. To present day in 2020s, there's a global alignment and digitalization with the quality management regulations now, which have been incorporated into ISO 13485. This then includes your harmonized standard regulations and with international standards to foster more and safer devices moving into the market. So just a little bit of history there. So why ISO 13485? ISO 13485 is an internationally recognized quality management system. It's a standard that is specifically designed for the medical device industry, and it focuses on safety, risk management, and regulatory compliance, ensuring consistent design, production, and distribution of medical devices throughout their life cycle. This standard is harmonized to both the MDD and the MDR regulation and is precise and a beneficial approach to the regulatory requirements. Within a QMS quality management system, you have a framework that needs to cover specific and certain points that you need to address to make sure that you're at least following the standards framework. So you have a strategy for regulatory compliance. This is including compliance with conformity assessment procedures and procedures for management of modification to your devices covered by the system. Another point is the identification of applicable general safety and performance requirements, and these are an exploration of options to address those requirements. You need to identify the applicable general and safety performance requirements and ensure that you've listed them correctly within your system. Resource management. Obviously, you need to ensure that you have sufficient resource. You need to select and control of suppliers and your subcontractors. You need to cover a risk management as set in section 3. You need to have clinical evaluation in accordance to the standards with the MDR, including your PMCF, which is post-market clinical follow-up. Your product realization, this is including planning, design, development, production, and service provisions within your system. You need setting up and implementing and maintaining your quality management system and post-market surveillance systems. You need handling the communication with competent authorities and notified bodies. That's following your implementation of your quality management system. And you need management of corrective and preventive actions and verification of effectiveness. This is a step I'll address further on in the webinar to ensure that you've addressed all the steps that you've implemented within your quality management system, any areas that are corrected and recorded correctly according to ISO 13485. And you need a process for monitoring and measurement, of output data analysis and product improvement. Sounds a bit detailed at the moment, but there are steps moving on in the webinar which will explain these in more detail. This is just an outline of the framework of the steps that you need to cover to ensure that you've got all the aspects covered within 13485. So implementing a QMS system, you need to have a couple of important steps that you follow. You need to implement a systematic approach. This involves implementing a quality management system involves a systematic approach to ensure its effectiveness. It's highly recommended to start this process during your product concept stages within your business, rather than delaying it until just after product market launch of your product, which then sets delay of having your quality management system put the device onto the market. Information on implementing the ISO 13485 quality management system is best found through specialized regulatory consultants. So it's always handy to engage in someone that's regulatory compliant and has got a lot more experience. So consultants are always at hand. We offer those services as well. So it's always good to have someone that's got the experience to do it. There's a breakdown now I'll go through for each of the stages that go through to implement a quality management system. Okay, fair amount of stages here. So first of all, your stage 1, you need to establish the need for a quality management system. So before embarking on the implementation journey, it's crucial to assess your organization's current quality management practices and identify the need for a quality management system. Recommended to conduct a gap analysis against the standards listed in ISO 13485 and determine where your which areas of your device does not meet the requirements and define the scope of your work. So you would go through the ISO 13485 standard, you would determine the areas where your device meet those requirements, and obviously do a gap analysis where they don't, and you know which areas to strengthen on. Determining which parts of the standards are applicable, of course. If you follow within this ISO 13485, you've got all the clauses which addresses each breakdown for each section that you would be able to do a gap analysis for, and you'll be able to see how far along you are within your products and your product manufacturing, and you'll be able to see which parts need a lot more attention than others. Top management must always commit to providing resources as well and assigning responsibility and authority for that. So that's a very big important step to do within establishing your QMS. Stage 2, once you've established the need for your QMS and you've done your gap analysis and realized what areas and strengths you've got, you can then put a plan together to start implementing your QMS. So in this stage, you create an implementation plan that will then outline the activities, the timelines, responsibilities, and resources required for a successful QMS implementation. Here you'll define clear objectives, for example, regulatory compliance, if it's patient safety, risk management, process consistency, document control and traceability as a few examples, and you will then establish a project team to oversee the implementation process. Processes define what needs to be accomplished to ensure the safety and quality, whereas your procedures define on how to do them. Once you've established that plan, you establish your core processes. As I mentioned before, ISO 13485 outlines all those processes, and it requires multiple documented processes to be recorded to meet these requirements, spanning from document control, design, purchasing, production, and improvement. 13485, we've got some examples in the next slide that will just show you an outline as per the clauses in 13485. Will show you how certain documentation will be recorded under each of those sections in the standard. Will make more sense on the next slide. Apologies. Part of the planning then, you'll be developing the QMS structure, and this will include areas and processes such as your quality manual. So you'll be creating a quality manual that outlines the scope of the QMS, your organization. It will also include justifications for any exclusions. In the quality manual, it's a fairly large core document that you have within your organization. This will address sections that include your quality policy and objectives, your management responsibility, document control, resource management, product realization, performance evaluation and improvements, just to name a very few that are outlined. In this stage as well, for the planning and the implementation, you need to do documentation and procedures. So you'll develop mandatory documented procedures and have them. Examples of those are coming in the next few slides. But for example, you'll have a training SOP, a standard operating procedure, internal audit procedure, or a CAPA SOP. SOP, standard operating procedure, apologies. Another part of the planning of your implementation will be risk management. You need to enable that enables manufacturers to identify, analyze, evaluate, control, and monitor risks. This will ensure the safety and regulatory compliance within your organization. You then also need to ensure that part of this planning, you do a medical device file. This is establishing a medical device file for each of your products that you'll be putting on the market, containing references, specifications, drawings, procedures, and they're living documents that you'll have for each of your products that you'll file away. And that is part of the 13485 requirement. This file holds essential design, manufacturing, and risk management, as well as clinical data necessary for market approval. Part of that information within the medical device file, to give examples, would be your general information. So it'll be device description, specifications, intended purpose. You'll have labeling, which is your instructions for use, your packaging and product labels. You'll have design and development, which is including design drawings, specification, risk assessment records, risk assessment files. Manufacturing and procedures, you need procedures for production, sterilization, packaging, storage, and distribution. Evaluation as well, you'll require clinical evaluation reports, verification and validation data. Also, that included at the moment is post-market information. So this will be information on the post-market surveillance and customer complaints. So a lot of documentation to record within the planning of your QMS system. A slightly simpler one to do is your stage 3, which is defining your quality objectives. Within your organization, you'll identify measurable quality objectives aligned with your company's quality policy. These objectives will be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and of course, time-bound. SMART is a very important factor to use when establishing quality objectives. Your quality policy for your company. This is a written statement within the quality manual that states your commitments to safety, compliance, and quality in medical device development and manufacturing. This policy ensures that all company activities align with producing safe and effective medical devices and adhering to the regulatory standards and continuously improving processes. Your quality objectives then serve as a benchmark to gauge the effectiveness of your QMS, and it ensures a process for review of these objectives to ensure that you do regular management review meetings to ensure that these are conducted and ensure that they are met, and it drives improvement within your organization. Stage 4, you're documenting processes and procedures. This is probably the part that majority of people don't enjoy doing, but for documenting processes, you need to document your processes and procedures to ensure that it's consistent implementation and understanding. So you need to develop a comprehensive amount of documentation, quality manual, work instructions, documentation templates that you can use that all align with the industry standards and regulations. These documents, you need to create them, review them, approve them, and ensure that they are always at the latest revisions and approvals. These SOPs, standard operating procedures, should ensure all design, testing, and production data are recorded to demonstrate compliance, and only current approved documents that need to be used and available within your quality management system. This next slide is just a little bit of a hierarchy, just to explain a little bit more in visuals of what a quality manual and procedures and records look like. So with your quality manual, you've got, as I've mentioned, defines the approach and responsibility within your organization. Your procedures and processes are your SOPs and work instructions. These define who, what, when, and defines how. You then also have your quality records, which are forms of technical and design history files, evidence records, and provides evidence of compliance. A few examples, as mentioned, with ISO 13485, you've got all the different separate clauses and sections within the standard that allows you guidance on what kind of SOPs that you would require. I've just taken 3 standards here. There are 7 or 8. For example, in clause 4 with the quality management system, you would have SOP 1, for example, which is control of documents. Within that SOP, it will outline for your entire organization how you manage, revise, and approve all your documents. So an umbrella of a procedure for your system. For example, I've just given numbers here, but obviously within your organization, you number them yourselves. You've got control of records, and that will just outline the retention, the storage, and the protection of your SOPs. And then, of course, you've got your quality manual management, how to manage the quality manual. Clause 5, for example, is your management responsibility. So 2 of those kind of SOPs would be your management review procedure to ensure that you do regular management reviews that covers all aspects of ISO 13485 within your organization. And you'll have your quality policy and objective definition as well. Another one in clause 6, for example, you've got resource management. You'll have a standard operating procedure that is going to cover competence and training, so ensure that all staff are qualified and trained within the QMS. As mentioned, there are 8 different clauses within the ISO 13485, but I just took 3 of them out there just to give an example of what type of SOPs you would need to include into your implementation. The next set of stages, you've got stage 5, which is your training and awareness. This is quite important because you need to ensure that all employees are aware of your quality management system and their roles in its implementation. You need to conduct training programs to educate employees about quality concepts, procedures, and their responsibilities. A lot of work, but it does foster a culture throughout the organization. Under clause 5, as you saw above there, management responsibility, the leadership must foster a culture of quality where compliance is integrated into business operations rather than treated as a checkbox. So basically mentioning that it's not just a checkbox that you need to have for ensuring that people know what the quality management system is. A quality management system is something that people really need to understand, come to terms with, and actively be involved with, and understand the reason and the requirements of it to be able to put a product out in the market and to follow compliance for regulatory as well as for your customers as well. In section 6.2 in the ISO 13485, it says personnel performing work affecting product quality shall be competent on the basis of appropriate education, training, skill, and experience. So training is a very important part of a quality management system, as well as the awareness and the use of the quality management system. So it's always important to ensure that when working with a quality management, if you aren't aware of a certain area that you're working on, to get your correct training and make sure that it's recorded. Section 6, implementation and monitoring. This is where you activate your quality management system by implementing all the specified processes and procedures as mentioned before. You monitor the implementation closely, so you put all your documents into process, you start working with them, you start seeing how they work, how they're updated, how they're revised, how you collect data, how you measure performance against all your quality objectives, and you start recording all your information, either be it in a report or in your SOPs or in training records. This is where you identify areas for improvement, and you can take corrective action as necessary if things are not moving as smoothly as they should. Stage 7, once your quality management system is implemented, the best risk-based approach to ensure that everything is working correctly is to conduct regular audits. So in section 8.2.4 on ISO 13485, I highly recommend pulling a standard offline and reading through for yourselves and getting familiar with it. But regularly you conduct internal audits to assess the effectiveness of your QMS. Internal audits help you identify non-conformities, process gaps, areas requiring improvement or lack of efficiency, and you use these audit findings to implement corrective actions and ensure compliance with the standards. So it definitely ensures that you're covering all areas of the standard, and it also shows the competency and effectiveness of your staff and their training. Again, top management must review the quality QMS, and usually after operating it for several months, about 3 to 6 months, I would say, you ensure you're then able to see its true suitability and effectiveness. But internal audits is your best way to ensure the effectiveness of your quality management system, because you audit each section of the clause at least 2 or 3 times a year, and for each section, should I say, you do at least 7 or 8 audits within your quality management system for each calendar year, and it just helps address any gaps. Once section 8, once your quality management system is implemented, you've done all your training, your planning, you've conducted internal audits, you're now ready to have your quality management system certified for continual improvement. Continual improvement is a fundamental principle of the ISO 13485 QMS. This is where you analyze data, customer feedback, your audit results, and you identify opportunities for improvement. Implementing preventive measures, you drive innovation, and you strive for excellence in your quality management practices. In the standard, you have a clause for preventive action, which is 8.5.3. This is part of the measurement analysis and improvement section. So unlike corrective actions that fix existing problems, preventive actions are proactive measures designed to eliminate the causes of potential nonconformities and prevent their occurrence. So that's part of the continual improvement, as well as section 8.2. You've got your feedback, you've got your complaint handling, and your customer communication. So all requirements within the ISO 13485 that help your continual improvement, which helps with stage 8. The risk management for your quality management system, ISO 13485 requires a risk-based approach to the medical device quality system. And this is focusing on patient safety, product performance, and your regulatory compliance throughout the product life cycle. The key aspects there, as I've listed, you've got your risk-based quality management system. So this goes beyond product safety. You must apply a risk-based approach thinking to all processes, such as training, supplier control, and documentation. Your lifecycle approach, risk management applies to the design and development, production, distribution, and post-market surveillance. Your safety and performance, this focuses on identifying potential hazards that could impact the user or the patient safety of the device or device functionality. And of course, your documentation, your risk management files, which contain your risk management plan, your hazard identification, and your risk assessments must all be maintained. Key benefits of a quality management system. Your enhanced customer focus. This ensures products or services are consistently met and customer needs and satisfaction are always at the top of the food. Improved efficiency and productivity. This streamlines your processes, minimizes errors, and ensures product quality. Better risk management. It proactively identifies and manages risks, potentially reducing errors, complaints, adverse incidents, and product recalls. Such events have a negative impact on your company's profile and can even impact profits and share price. Regulatory compliance, of course, the most important. It helps you meet the industry standards and legal requirements which streamline your product to the market. Also assists in helping a stronger market position. This is a differentiation from competitors and access to new markets. Your data-driven decisions. This provides insights for better or more informed decisions regarding performance and operations within your organization. It helps with the employee engagement. It clarifies roles, responsibility, and training needs involving staff in all things quality. It also helps you with the continuous improvement culture. It's a structured system, so there's ongoing enhancement of your processes for your products and services, and it would benefit the organization as a whole to ensure that all are compliant. Once you have implemented your quality management system, it is always beneficial then to engage in an external body and get your quality management system certified. It's a completely separate process to actually implementing your quality management system. So for any manufacturer seeking to place devices on the market for all class 3, 2, or 1 devices, you require a notified body certification. So they are known as the UK approved body, which is an AB. It's an independent third-party organization designated by the UK Competency Authority, which is known as MHRA, to assess conformity for the products requiring a UKCA mark for the Great British market. They perform mandatory third-party assessments, audits, and testing, which will be part of being done for your quality management system. Engaging an approved body for your quality management system, audits and certification is a mandatory requirement for medical device manufacturers. This is a critical strategic decision, and it requires for them to certify your quality management system. It's officially designated for your specific device and has the capacity to review your application in a timely manner. Approved bodies are not interchangeable. They are specialized, and their scope of designation varies significantly. Failure to align the UK body scope with your product portfolio can lead to significant market entry delays. Key steps to use when selecting an approved body: your device classification. So you classify your device whether it's a class A, 1, 2, or 3, or A or B to determine if a notified body is required. You check the designation to ensure if the approved body is qualified to examine the details. Shortlist and inquire. It's always beneficial to your organization to contact 3 to 5 potential approved bodies and just to check for their availability and for their quotes, and then work what's best for your organization. You then evaluate them. You rank based on expertise, capacity, cost, and of course experience with other medical device companies. Once you've established all those steps, you then get a formal contract signed with a written agreement. The full process for this medical device regulatory approval is covered in the first section of a regulatory strategy that you would then take following the implementation of your quality management system. Hope I've covered most of the points there. References here, of course, you've got your ISO 13485 2016 medical device requirements, and you've got your MDR guideline requirements there as well.
Thank you very much, Lauren. That was a really insightful presentation on understanding and implementing quality management systems. So thank you again for that. Before and also during the presentation, we have had some questions come into us from members of the audience, just on some points. Some of them have been covered during the presentation, but it's probably quite useful just to go through them again, just for the benefit in case anyone missed anything.
Of course.
So the first question that's come in is, when would you say is the best time to start setting up a QMS?
We're definitely at your concept stages within your organization. So if you have a product that you are the concept at what's the word I'm looking for? Sample age, not the, as you've got the design pinned down and knowing that you want to move forward, it's a good idea then to start doing your documentation, getting good practice into implementing your quality management system. Don't wait until you've produced your product and you're trying to put it onto the market, because then you need to do a lot of backlog work. So it's always good as you start the design of your product, start documenting, start getting a quality management system in process, and start getting the practices of implementing and recording everything.
That's great, thank you. And there's another one just come in just now on the chat. It's quite a specific one. It's asking, have we got any experience in how a medical device manufacturer who uses 13485, how having that accreditation helps organisations meet the requirements of other ISO standards, such as 15189?
Myself personally, I've not had, but I do know that it does help with your quality management system. You've got the outline umbrella of all the standards requirement for a medical device to be on the market. So it would absolutely benefit having that accredited to ensure that you get the same accreditation for other standards as well. If I've covered that correctly, it does help having the outline of your quality management system with all the requirements in there, because it does cover a lot with the MDR is now aligning a lot with 13485. So it does cover a lot of other standards as well. So it does benefit you having that accreditation.
That's great, thank you, Lauren. And just another question here. How long would it typically take an organisation to get their ISO 13485 certification?
Okay, to implement a 13485 system, it typically takes, I would say, 6 to 12 months for small businesses, for small companies, and probably as little as 3 months for larger organizations. It does also, it all depends as well on how much you've already started and already that you have. If you have a lot of work instructions and documentation already in place within your organization as you've started concept ideas, it does smooth things and make things go a little faster than that. But I would say most likely safely between 3 to 6 months.
And how would you recommend managing risk when you're setting up your QMS? What's the best way to do that?
Quality management risk, you need to require different the standards within 13485 does cover the risk. Forgive me, I'm just putting up my notes here again, just before I say a different standard here, because you need to shift from a reactive fix-it mentality to a productive risk-based approach to emphasize you covering all the standards. So you need to integrate risk thinking with your everyday processes. not just treating it as a separate one-time task. So you need to cover all the aspects. Let me just pull up my notes, apologies.
I think that's quite a good insight, and obviously there are also other risk management standards, so like ISO 14971 as well.
And
you can use
and
that.
9001 as well, yes.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. And another question here. So if you're an organisation who has just implemented a QMS and you feel like it's going quite well, at what point would you actually know that your QMS was ready to be audited?
The best time to know if you're audit ready is when all your documentation is current, it's controlled, it's easily accessible, staff understand and are following all your procedures. So any of your internal audits that you've got, you would know if there's any outcomes or actions and gaps that you've identified in your internal audits. And if you've had them, how many corrective actions you've done. And well, a key sign is that the system operates in the background and is supporting your daily work and not you having to do it the other way around, if that makes sense.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And we've just had one more question come in there that is asking, what would you recommend for a company that is starting to create the QMS documents for software-only medical devices, so excluding manufacturing completely? Says the products created are active, class 1A or 2A products only. Is this plausible to just define the product class type within the scope?
The software.
That's quite a detailed one, I think.
Yes.
For the participant it came from, Freya, it would be great if you emailed into us that question. We probably need a bit more background information for you, but we can certainly try and address that question offline after the webinar, but we probably do need a bit more information from you.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, software is a lot more intricate at the moment and there's a lot more different avenues that are being addressed. So yes, would need a bit more time for that one.
Okay, and I think we've just got one more, just time for one more just now before we wrap things up. The final question that we've got here is, what approach would you recommend to ensuring QMS is adopted by all the staff in an organisation?
I would say simplicity is best. You need to view your quality system as a compliance, not as a compliance burden, but more as a daily tool that you use within your organization, documents that you will always read. It's just engagement and the culture within your organization. You get all your staff aware of what kind of procedures are there. They're always helpful. Having a procedure within your system is always handy to have. So adopting the mentality that you've got an SOP to turn to for any advice in any area within your organization, it definitely helps to integrate the culture of what a quality management system is. It's there to help you, not to hinder your daily life. So as long as you're aware of it and you're all engaged in it together, it will certainly benefit your knowledge on your device, number one, and also on the requirements for the standards.
That's great. Thank you, Lauren. I think we've had a couple more questions come in. So if anyone has put a question to us just now, unfortunately we've run out of time, but please do get in touch with us. I think Lauren will share a slide shortly that has all of our contact information on it. Get in touch with us at the info@InnoScot email address, and that email will get put through to one of the members of the regulatory team, and we will try our best to help and advise you. But thank you very much, and I'll just pass back to Lauren to wrap off.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for your questions. I did try and cover every aspect, so I hope I was able to, but please, as Paula mentioned, by all means send us an email. Just before we go to the information, we do have another webinar session on the Wednesday the 27th. We are just finalizing those details, so they'll be up shortly. But by all means, please go to our website for any upcoming events there. And as Paula mentioned, any suggestions or questions, please do go to info@innoscot.com. And of course, as well, if you're not part of any of our socials, please do join or email us on a regular basis. And we'll share our slides with contact details as well that we'll be able to make available for you. Thank you everybody for joining. I hope it was informative, and happy to address any further questions in the email anytime. Thanks very much.